afternoon, everybody. Just let me double check that we are good. Looks like we're good. Okay, cool. My name is Patrick Hawe. I'm an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer, and member of FINRA SIPC. All trades placed by myself are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Please pause the video, take the time to read this disclosure. Thank you. And current position disclosure, these are my current longs. Definitely no new longs after today. And what a crazy day it was. This morning feels like it was the beginning of the week. It feels like it was a long time ago for sure. So I guess let's just go over what happened and what we think we can expect moving forward. What's the game plan for tomorrow and going forward. So coming into the morning, so I totally forgot about CPI. I was drawing a blank as to what happened here. So coming into the morning, futures were pretty flat and all eyes were on CPI for inflation. The CPI number came out, inflation was hot, which I don't think was that big of a surprise, but inflation is really hot. That tanked the market down to the point where we were pretty extended to the downside upon opening, and we were opening at support. SPY was set to open right at this 451 to 450 support area. Qs were set to open right at like 360. It was basically 361.50 to 360. They were actually opening below 360. So our plan off the open was, okay, this seems like a bit of an overreaction to a hot inflation number where everyone is very well aware and been very well aware that inflation is here. So our plan off the open was know your levels, SPY 451, 450, Qs 360, and pretty much the same thing we've been going over almost every day except for I think yesterday when we were a little calmer, but it's a two-way market, or like 2 days ago when we were looking for continuation to the upside, but it's a two-way market. So just know your levels. If you're below those key levels, you can be short. If you're above those key levels, you can be long. And so SPY was at that key level opening up, and we were leaning to the long side because one, it was such a big gap down, and two, it just seemed like a bit of an overreaction. So a lot of us did a pretty good job. I think it looked like a lot of you guys caught this QQQ. If you did Qs 360 or TQQQ 5950, this buy back through 360 off the open. So Qs opened, shook around for a couple minutes, and then it looks calm here. The actual couple minutes, it was definitely a little shaky for sure. But back above 360 here versus the low of 32, so like 70 cents risk or so. With that being said, just an absolute rip higher. 361.50 was the other level in Qs I had mentioned before, so we had a little trouble at that level, but then just ripped right through there. Got to equilibrium on everything. And the IWM, by... what time is this? By 10 o'clock, the IWM was giving a bullish engulfing daily candle. The IWM, just straight up, no, very, very little trouble at anything from yesterday in terms of resistance. Just a great rip. Everything was looking great. IWM was looking fantastic. If everything looks pretty good. Uber, is a weird day too. A couple weird things happened. Uber had earnings yesterday and they halted. They had their analyst day today and they halted for news, which, they said they were looking to be profitable soon. It didn't seem like anything crazy, but they halted that during an analyst day. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. Like the day after earnings are reported and, people are just presenting and stuff on a big name like this. That's not like a biotech or something like that. So that was interesting. They halted Uber. That was kind of, some excitement in the middle of the day where, we were chopping around a little bit, but for the most part, I thought really we were just going to kind of go sideways, maybe grind higher into the afternoon based on how strong we were off the open. Buyers, real buyers after the market opened, took advantage of that huge gap down and bought us right back up. Then right at 12:45, Bullard from the Fed was on. I think he was on Bloomberg TV talking and absolutely scared the market. Was very, very, very hawkish, and now it looks very, very probable that when we hike in March, it's going to be by 50 basis points. So, that just absolutely killed everything to the point where I'm pretty surprised at how much. I mean, it killed the entire day's strong move, where this was arguably a very surprising and impressive move, and then to just kill all of that is even more impressive. So what does that mean going forward? One, we already knew that a 50 point hike was very, very possible in March. We see what inflation's doing. Clearly the Fed is behind the ball a little bit. We already knew that was definitely possible. I mean, we have, big banks, Bank of America, talking about 7 rate hikes this year. Powell said it's definitely not out of the question to hike them at every single meeting this year. So it's not like he said we're hiking by 100 points right now. But yeah, so the probabilities of a 50-point hike in March are now something like 90% to 100%. That scared the market. Everything rolled over. What does that mean going forward? We'll see. On the one hand, I guess let's just do the bearish and bullish argument. The bearish argument is clearly, this is disgusting. This absolutely kills all the momentum. This is maybe like an island reversal almost. We're back below the 80 MA. We closed near lows. This 80 MA did not cross over the 21. We're failing 4,500 support. This looks absolutely to be lower for sure. The technicals absolutely say that. Qs, that is disgusting. And IWM, that tail looks fake. That looks like I'm having a software glitch right now in IWM. So this looks bad, and it looks like we're going to get further downside continuation. The only bull argument that I can make, really just off the top of my head, because I kind of have to make one here, is this was like an algo sell, where we see this sometimes where whether it's news, whatever it may be, just algos sell, and then the day's over, and then they're done selling, and then we just get bought right back up yesterday because those algos that were selling on the Bloomberg red dot headlines are not there anymore. So that's a possibility. We'll see if that happens, and it's probably just going to be the same plan tomorrow as it was today with SPY 450. SPY, we'll see how we gap, one, obviously. And then two, SPY is below 450 and rips back through 450 or even 448, then try to be long. And if SPY cannot rip and is not holding, cannot get above 448 and is selling, then definitely 445, 444, and then 440 is in the cards. And if we start to get back to 440, then we start, we'll see. It's totally one day at a time right now. So that's the market. That's the market going forward. I guess the other weird event that happened was Affirm. I don't know they accidentally, I don't know if they were like, it seemed like maybe they were setting up to have a tweet go out at like a certain time, and then instead of setting it for a certain time, maybe they just tweeted it and said, oops. So they accidentally tweeted some of their results, and then the results actually came out. I think they missed revenue. They weren't terrible, but a super growth company like this in a market like this, you can't have okay numbers and miss on stuff. You got to be beating everywhere. So yeah, I mean, there's other names I could talk about, but the market is just so crazy and so in play, and it's gonna definitely be so in play tomorrow. That's all I really have to talk about. This is why I really appreciate being able to come in and like trade every day and do this on a day-to-day basis, because you know it's always the case where you can't really predict the market in a far time out, but especially like this. I mean, I think I was talking to like Felipe in the middle of the day, and we're like, I've changed my thought process, like my thesis on this entire market, big picture, like 5 times, this week, 3 times today. From this market looks pretty bearish, big picture, to bullish, to neutral, to bullish, to, bearish to bullish, to bullish to bearish. And this morning it was bullish, and now it's back to looking bearish. So it's a day by day thing. So we'll keep taking it day by day. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. We'll see how we gap tomorrow. If we're gapping around 450, we'll have 450 to play with. If we're gapping over 450, that will be impressive. And if we're gapping down big, if we're gapping down to 445, then we'll have 445 to play with. And if we just open flat at 4, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we gap. I have no idea. So we'll see. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So, any questions, comments about today? Definitely feel free to ask. It was definitely a crazy day. I'm sure if anyone had any longs, they got stopped out, or hopefully you did anyway. Russ had a great day. UVXY, SQQ, TZA, nice. Bears are eating steak and lobster. Tonight's news show. Rate hikes aren't fully priced in yet. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what surprised me so much. It's as if the market had, this market sold off so hard. It's as if it had no idea that they were going to hike in March at all. So, yeah, it's interesting. Are these moves over exaggerated? Fundamentally, we've known they were. I mean, that's what I'm saying, Sonny. That's my only bull argument, really, that I can pull out of where for this would be just like these headlines come out and you get just like the sell programs from the headlines, and tomorrow those sell programs aren't there, and then we just get bought right back up. And I don't think that's impossible, because the exact same thing, we literally saw that this morning from CPI coming out and SPY going from 457 to 451. And then our thesis for the open was this is an overreaction. And then, we were right about that for like a nice bounce back, but it completely negated it. Like a complete overreaction. So I don't think that's an impossible situation. What are my thoughts on CVX trade inside 5 at 9:40 a.m.? XLE was strong. The market traded and stopped out. I would say your ADMA rule wasn't there for your stop. So I don't hate the idea. I definitely don't. But the ADMA rule is very powerful. So honestly, if I were you in real time and I saw this inside five, like maybe for you going forward, say, okay, like I see the inside five, but the ADMA is not quite up here, so maybe this makes like a shooter, a couple inside fives, or not even a couple inside fives, but just like a bull flag where I can buy versus the base of that bull flag. And then the inside five, and then the 5 minute ADMA, I was caught up to my out, so that, you can check that off for the rules. It gives you a higher probability in your trade working and your out being valid. So yeah, so I'm not even saying like you used the wrong out, but just you didn't have your ADMA up to your out, and yeah. So those are my thoughts on that, Jerry. I hope that makes sense. Honestly, I thought I was crazy. Yeah, I took that trade. Great. What did the XLE look like at that time? This is like a this is a perfect example. Like you got an inside five right here, but it's extended. It breaks through. You might even get your risk covered in this uptick. Trades all the way back down. You're getting stopped out, and then you might be like taking your eyes off it, but it's pulling back to equilibrium, which is rising 8, rising 21. This is where you should be looking to buy it again. Um, yeah. Can I talk a bit how I traded today's action? Did you trade after the morning rip for cash flow through the day? Yeah, ET. I basically traded the morning rip and then gave most to all of it back. I closed red because of swings, but gave like a lot of it back because of day trading. Yeah, I bought T triple Q for the opening rip. I did not hold it all the way to here. I flattened out. And then what did I trade? Like I traded some SPY in here where I think I made some and then lost some and then lost some. And then I traded IWM, where I think I shorted some and lost some, and then shorted some again and made some back. But I lost some in SPY at the end of the day, which I know better than to do afternoon trading anyway. And looking back at my trade, it was here for this 450, and I think I bought 451, like around here. And looking back and criticizing myself, I should have retried again at 450, but I just kind of like was like, ugh, I lost money and didn't retry it. And just because something extended doesn't mean it can become further extended, but that can lead to even better opportunities. So yeah, so that's what I trade. I traded Qs in the morning and then SPY and IWM throughout the day, and made some in Qs and then gave some back in SPY and IWM. And I'm not too happy with myself with my trading today because I should have made more in the morning rip. I should have taken more size. I should have held more. So yeah, that was my day, which not the best. Yeah, probabilities definitely went up a lot. Let me check YouTube. Double gap fill happened today on YouTube. Mr. Trees seems like they use CPI as an excuse to fill a gap. Yeah, yeah, maybe this market's just looking for an excuse to sell. Wouldn't this be good for financials or banks? And BAC being so. Yes, but when things really sell, they do sell everything. Um, so to a certain point, yes, but when things really sell and rates again, it's not necessarily the level of rates as much, it is the level of rates, but it's also the speed at which interest rates move, which, if they start to really excel to the upside and bonds really start to excel to the downside, which we're kind of seeing happen, um, and they start to really sell equities everywhere, then everything gets sold. It's hard to find anything that's up besides the VIX and the dollar ETF. So, I guess what that means is like I like your theory, but if the technicals don't match up for your theory, don't just randomly buy it. So with that being said, Bank of America still needs this 80 May to catch up. It still looks bullish. It still looks way better than the market right now. 49 is a level that it's chopping around. 49 and 50. Maybe it takes a couple more days. 80 May catches up to 49, and then it can finally get through 50. Rich says, going forward into Friday, Q is still an inside week. Wow. That looks bearish. With a shooting star, counters, Momo hammer setup in which price has been rejected. Yeah. This definitely looks bearish. I mean, it's the first time the 8 is sloped down and crossed below the 21 since COVID. And the last time that happened was 2018, the Powell pivot. It didn't even happen for I forget what they call this, Vixopolis or whatever. Um, the VIX explosion. And before that, 2016, when we went flat. Yeah. Not the best looking chart. And we had a weekly. This is a bottoming candle, no doubt about it. But all it really calls for is this bounce we've had back. Now it's both ways. Can it go? Woo looked cheap. Or you said Woo looked okay. Should I sell my MGI and buy Woo? Is that what you're saying? Not reacting too much. 18 is definitely a level in this thing. 18 is a pretty big level. I feel like I remember this from back over here. Pat, how would I handle something like Uber today? Held through the haul, gap down through stop, held the position and got lucky when it retraced 40 to get out, but in a case where it doesn't, do you wait until a 5-5 low and get out? Yeah, I've never luckily been. Not that I've never been in a stock that's halted, but not really something like that where it's like out of the blue and you're like, oh my god. Like I've definitely been in like volatility halts. I think my answer would be, yeah, like see how it opens and then try, if see how it opens. If it opens in your favor, lucky day for you. If it opens like this and you're long, see, what did this look like on the 2-minute? Out of curiosity, yeah, look at this 2-minute ADMA. See if you can bail out somewhere close to equilibrium. Like when like something like this happens, things trade really, really crazy. And if you're a newer trader, if this has never happened to you, or definitely if you have a big position, seeing this gap down and you're instant thought is, oh my god, like F me, this is terrible. And then within 30 seconds, you're taking 10 seconds to decide what to do, and in 30 seconds it's down another $1.50. You're probably freaking out. But yeah, definitely don't freak out. I don't want to say just give it like just sit there for 15 minutes and twiddle your thumbs and let it go low. But just, if it opens in your favor, great. If it opens down like this, maybe just try and bail out somewhere around equilibrium. You're saying you got lucky and sold at 40. Like, I don't think you really got lucky. Because I would expect to snap back in this thing. And you do kind of have to, like, wait and let it put a low in, which it looks like this opened, ticked up, but there's no way I don't even know if that's real. Sold down, put its low in, and then rallied back. So I guess my answer would be, it's not a certain amount of time you gotta wait, but just wait for it to put some type of low in. And not something where it just like blips like this, like a real, like, okay, it's bouncing. Now you see it bouncing, and then maybe you can try and sell it at 41, 42, 40, whatever. But let it put a low in. Let it put a pivot in. You gotta let it put a pivot in. Unless it's like Uber's going bankrupt, then I don't know, hit your market sell button. Yeah, I hope that makes sense, Sonny. Sonny sharing head and shoulders on TLT, yeah. Let's see what you're looking at. If TLT breaks, how could that impact it? I mean, it's just bonds lower equals rates higher, so TLT is only going to break this. This is what Sonny's looking at. If rates go higher, which that's what it's looking like is going to happen. But again, it's not necessarily where TLT goes, but also the speed of which it does it. Which right now, I mean, like if TLT actually just burn, that would be really bad for the market. But it's getting a little overextended. So if we see a relief bounce in bonds, that can probably put some calm to the market. If TQQ opening drive trade, where did you place your out? The day low, Rich. So I was looking at it pre-market, and I basically figured out that Q360 was T triple Q 5950. So just the day low. So it opened. I remember it opened, triggered 5950. I bought it. It made a low. It stopped me out, and I took a loss. And then it went back up and triggered again, and I had to rebuy it. And then again versus that low. Cool. Looks like I got through everything. Any other questions or anything? Otherwise, we'll see how we gap and assess a new game plan tomorrow morning. I think our game plans every day have been pretty solid this week. Whatever the market has done, it's always good to have a game plan. So, we'll see. All right, yeah, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.